Hi, I want to talk about the characters and writing for the characters of the Anacrusis today. I keep trying to make this video. I keep trying to add a bunch of art and stuff to it, and I just get sidetracked because I'm a dope. So I'm just going to kind of be a little bit more straightforward on this one. Also, the Anacrusis is on sale, half off during the holiday sale. Pick it up. You can always return it if you don't like it. Like, that's the kind of money back guarantee we give you. But all right, it's a 4-player co-op game. I like 4 players, 4-player co-op. We're going back to that. And one of the things when you create a game that has a bunch of different characters and you want to know who's in trouble is you want to have unique voices into the game, right? So everybody has a different voice, the actual voice, right? So low, high, man, woman, undefined, and you have that as a way to so you know who's yelling even if you don't know the person, because you'll find out often a lot of times accents and a little nuance of the voice gets lost when they're yelling. That's what people do, not just actors, right? So the 4 we have is Lance. Lance was the first character I came up with. He is, I was researching kind of what is it like to go out on these expeditions, right? Because the Anacrusis takes place at a far, far, far reaches of the end of the galaxy, and these are like exploration ships. And the thing about it is, if you've never found anything bad, never had any kind of, like running into aliens or war or all that's over, these are kind of more adventures, right? And so he's a rich playboy who goes on an adventure, and that's where he is out there. So he is not sarcastic, he is not cruel, he doesn't tease, because he's got an easy life. Like, it is the easiest life you could have. But he is the kind of guy that, like, people have to clean up after him, right? Because he is a nightmare of a person. In that sense of, like, he has big ideas, but, he's not going to implement them himself. Somebody else is. And he tends to not really remember what those ideas are about or even remember what he just said. I like to have a character that represents me a little bit in the sense of, like, I can play as him and think of what would he say here. And Lance is that character here. And I think he does a pretty good job of that. He's pretty popular. The next character is Guillaume. Guillaume, I wanted to have a different kind of voice. Often in my writing, you equate cool with funny. And while Guillaume may have a couple cracks, he is cool like in the Steve McQueen kind of way. Like, he earned it. He has just got this thing about him. But now, he's arrived at the same place that Lance has arrived, but he did it in a different way. And it was an interesting article I had read of, think about if we advance in space flight every 500 years, even 100 years, like, if we can go, half the speed of light and you go head off to a planet, and then, in 100 years, they figure out how to go the speed of light, they're going to get there around the same time you get there, if not quicker, right? And so as technology increases and we send people off on these journeys that are going to take decades or centuries, they're going to get caught up with other people who have gotten newer technology. And that's the kind of the clash a little bit also between Guillaume and Lance. And the Anacrusis is made to be played again and again and again. And these are the kind of stories that come out if you play. If you play the first time, you're going to get the canonical story. Anytime there's a new player, you get the canonical story of, like, here's what you're doing in the map. But what we wanted to have was, if you play more and more, you get these kind of stories and he's kind of talking about these kind of space things. And so Guillaume is a cool one. He knows every single name of everything in the ship, every grenade. Like, he reads the manuals, but yet, like, that, it's that confidence and that knowledge is what lets him be cool and secure in himself. And he's also kind of the glue that holds all the other characters together. He's the one who everybody kind of can befriend and is good with, though his relationship with Lance, again, is a little antagonistic in the sense of, like, he never calls Lance by his name. He's got just nicknames for him. I worked with a guy who did that to me. I found it just aggravating. But he was cool. He was cooler than me. So, yeah, what do you know? And then there's Nessa. Nessa's a different kind of character for me because I wanted her to be able to talk about the hard, bad part of what just happened, right? We make these games that are about zombie apocalypses or alien invasions, and thousands of people are dying, and nobody ever seems very bothered by it. And you kind of have to do that because there's another technique we use, but I wanted her to at least feel some weight of that. And so sometimes if you play more, you'll hear these stories where she talks about, she feels responsible because she was on station that night when her ship got invaded, because there's a bunch of different ships out in this area, right? And they kind of went as a group together, as like discovering America, unless you're Leif Erikson, and then you went solo. But all right, you know what I'm saying, like the Mayflower and stuff, or not Mayflower. Don't sidetrack me. All right, but think about if AI rules our world, right? And AI had never encountered aliens and wouldn't train and understand how to counter it. And so she just simply didn't have the tools to counter it because she was relying on the AI. And in fact, when the aliens invade, they ignore the humans and they attack the robots first because they're sure they're the smart ones because they're doing everything. And that leaves the humans in a bad spot. And so Nessa kind of talks about that and kind of has that point to it. And she's also kind of the older sister to Liu, and that she tries to stop her from being the crazy one. So let's get to Liu. Liu is one of my favorite characters I've ever written in any game ever. I love her energy. I have a niece who's very young, so I won't mention her name, who's got the same kind of crazy energy. I taught her wild card, that if you yell wild card, you can do anything you want afterwards. Whoops. And Liu has that as well. And it's just this crazy bundle of energy of like, she was working in the workshop on her ship, which, technically is a technical position, but again, if AI is doing everything for you, you're just kind of sitting there watching. So she's taking apart everything, but she's never put anything back together again, right? She's just got this energy of just wanting to explore life and experience it. And then she runs into Lance and they become buddies, right? They are a duo, a team. They revel in each other's kind of, not stupidity, but just willing to embrace the naivety of what's going on and not be saddled with the heaviness. Now, they start all their missions on the Anacrusis. So I won't get into Boris on this one, but Boris is this mythical character that kind of brought them all together and saved them and plucked this little tracking device from them. That's where they can go back on the ship and they can't be seen by the aliens in the way that they could when they were being attacked. Because think about it, we all have these tracking devices on us all the time, these phones, and think about if you got rid of them, all of a sudden you couldn't be tracked. And so, like, I like to have my sci-fi have a little of the real world, and then it's kind of how that would play out inside of that. And again, if you play it again and again and again, you get these kind of stories, and it comes out from it. And the game's built every time you play it, it's different, right? Our AI director is really amped up. But so they're on the Anacrusis, and they take a little jump ship over, and they go to the Isolode. Now, the reason why I just didn't want them to be on the Isolode and like fighting back was that would have meant that they were killing people they knew, that they had lived with on that ship. The aliens have taken over the humans, and I'm not going to get into what happens there because there's you got to figure that out a little bit, as well as I won't get into the stories of what the different missions are because, you experience that, you figure that out. But I want to have that separation and them, no one being from that ship, so they could all experience that new and then come back to the safety where they could have conversations that weren't just about staying alive, but were about being humans and being characters. And that's kind of the weird way we live our lives now, right? There's horrible things going on in the world, but yet we make jokes, we laugh, we make TikToks, we play video games, and hey, the Cleveland Browns won last night and we're going to the playoffs, right? Like, there's all this happening in this juxtaposition. I wanted to give space for that. And one way to do that was have them not be on the ship that they were actually fighting on. And so they actually go onto the Isolode from this jump ship. And you'll see a passage of time as you go on the ship because the ship will change. And they'll talk about that, of how it's darker, on fire, and all of that. And again, I wanted to bring that forward with this. And they come back onto this jump ship. They're going to go on their missions, but if they go down, they don't die. What they do is they actually get rejuvenated. They get brought back to the jump ship, and then you bring them back from that, and they can teleport back. The idea being is you can't just teleport into an unknown location because you might go in the middle of a wall, and that would be bad. But if you have a known location, you could teleport to it. And again, that was just kind of something that comes out as you're playing it, and you kind of learn a little about it. And the rejuvenation machines are a little bit of a hint to some of what the game the game is built on, which is like the gun is from oh my gosh, come on, what is it? Logan's Run, sorry. And I really like that movie, and the gun is a little our pistol is a little ode to that. But so that is kind of the characters and their story and their world. Kind of get into some of the other parts of the game, and another section. I want to break these into 10-minute sections. And again, because I keep recording these but not doing them because I want to do all these graphics, I'm just not going to do graphics this time. Sorry.